Welcome everyone. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Today we have a truly fascinating journey ahead of us. We're going to deconstruct this perfectly crafted, highly evocative scene of everyday life, drawing directly from a really concise but incredibly rich descriptive text. Okay, let's dive into this because, well, what looks like a simple snapshot of a village market on the surface, it's actually a masterclass in visual storytelling and emotional engineering. We are going to unpack exactly how just a few lines of text can build this profound sense of atmosphere and human connection.
Now, I want you to just take a second and really immerse yourself in this setting. Quote, a small village market, soft evening light, end quote. We're transported directly into this space, right? But it's not the frantic, blinding rush of midday. No, it's that perfect golden hour, that soft, fading evening light that kind of bathes everything in a gentle, forgiving glow. It's instantly atmospheric. It's settling. It plunges us, the viewers, right into an environment that just feels incredibly lived in, timeless, and honestly deeply familiar.
And as we step deeper into this environment, the source text anchors us with these incredibly specific sensory details. I want you to visualize this old roadside tea stall with a weathered tin roof. Picture that cozy, gentle smoke rising steadily into the twilight air, cutting right through the ambient noise and the bustle of the local crowd surrounding it. It sets up this absolutely beautiful contrast, the quiet warmth of the little stall fighting against the busy world just outside of it. This isn't just a location we're looking at, it's a sanctuary, being carefully constructed right before our eyes.
Section 4. The human element. 2 characters. Think about that exact moment you finally get to sit down after hours of draining work.
You know that feeling, right? The physical weight just finally lifting off your shoulders. We all know that universal feeling of relief. Well, the text brilliantly uses 2 contrasting figures to ground us in that very specific shared human empathy. On one side of the counter, we have the middle-aged shopkeeper. He's this stationary, grounded presence, simply pouring hot tea with a slight, calm, welcoming smile. He's the anchor of the scene. On the other side, entering the frame, we have the tired salesman. He's the dynamic element, arriving entirely exhausted, literally burdened with a heavy shoulder bag pulling him down. This contrast, the calm, providing stillness of the shopkeeper versus the weary, heavy arrival of the traveler, it creates this immediate emotional dynamic without a single word being spoken.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how explicit the source text is about the visible toll of labor. It says, his face shows the marks of the day's hard work. The description doesn't just casually mention he's tired. It instructs us that the exhaustion is physically mapped out on his face for the whole world to see. And this instantly builds our connection to the salesman. We aren't just passively observing him, we're actively being asked to read the history of his long, grueling day, written right there in his features.
Section 7. The camera's gaze. Micro to macro.
Let's put on our film director hats for just a second here. A scene is really only as effective as how the camera chooses to reveal it to us, and we can see exactly how the camera traces this sequence chronologically. It starts intimately small with step 1, focusing on the micro detail of the steam slowly rising from the freshly poured teacup. Then, step 2 brings in an auditory cue, the comforting rhythmic sound of the boiling kettle in the background. Only after establishing this quiet sensory microcosm does step 3 actually pan out to reveal the macro, busy environment of the surrounding market. It's just a masterful technique. It forces us to experience the quiet intimacy of the tea stall first, making the contrast with the noisy market feel that much more pronounced.
Section 9. The climax. A sip of relief.
Everything we've discussed so far, the soft evening light, the rising steam, the heavy shoulder bag, the tired face, it has all been building up to this singular, quiet interaction amidst the busy market. So, the crucial point is this. The salesman takes a sip of tea and gives a smile of relief. That single, simple sip culminates in a profound smile of pure relief. All that physical burden and exhaustion we discussed earlier, it completely melts away in this one universal action. The shopkeeper's welcoming smile from earlier is now mirrored by the salesman's smile of comfort. It's the absolute perfect emotional payoff to the entire scene we've been building.
Section 11. Technical execution. Cinematic directives. Let's move to and see how this builds.
Because now we get to the really fascinating part, where the text shifts gears from narrative description into strict technical instructions. These prompts dictate exactly how this human story is meant to be visually rendered and captured. Look at this robust list of cinematic directives taken straight from the source. We've got realistic cinematic style, warm lighting, natural sound effects, ultra-realistic, detailed facial expressions, cinematic camera movement, and 4K quality. These aren't just random thrown-in buzzwords. No way. These technical specifications are intentionally chosen to elevate that deeply human story we just explored. They ensure the final output matches the heavy emotional weight of the scene. Let's break a few of the most important ones down.
Take the prompt for detailed facial expressions, for example. When a camera or a rendering engine is instructed to focus here, it demands ultimate visual clarity. It ensures that the exact micro-transition we talked about earlier, that shift from deep, heavy exhaustion to peaceful relief on the salesman's face, is palpably felt by the audience. Without this specific directive, the subtle emotional climax of a smile, it might be entirely lost in a wider shot.
Then we have the instruction for warm lighting. Now, we all visually know what warm lighting looks like, but in this context, it isn't merely a technical choice. It's an absolutely critical emotional tool. It transforms an otherwise mundane, old tin-roofed tea stall into a glowing, safe sanctuary. It creates this cozy, comforting visual contrast that actively pushes back against the harsh reality of the salesman's tiring day. The lighting itself literally acts as a warm embrace for the character.
And this brilliantly illustrates how the audio instructions pull the whole shebang together. The directive for natural sound effects perfectly complements the visual steam and the ultra-realistic 4K resolution. You don't just see the market in stunning clarity, you hear the bubbling kettle, you hear the distant chatter. It grounds those incredibly sharp visuals in a thoroughly authentic, immersive auditory environment. It really makes the tea stall feel tangibly real to the viewer.
Which brings us to our final, lingering thought for this explainer. How does technical cinematography change our perception of ordinary working-class moments? It's something I really want you to consider. By applying a 4K lens, deliberate warm lighting, and sweeping cinematic camera movements to something as simple as a tired man having a cup of tea, we elevate an everyday occurrence into a profound, gorgeous portrait of human resilience. The ordinary suddenly becomes extraordinary. I hope this breakdown leaves you eager to look for these micro moments and technical choices the next time you watch a film. Thank you so much for exploring this with me today.